Well, hi, hello, and how are you? Today we are going to talk about scalp inflammation and oleic acid. Oleic acid is one of the leading causes for dandruff and scalp inflammation. And did you know that the majority of the products that you've been putting on the scalp, even if you don't do it anymore, the majority of the products that you were putting on the scalp and oils, especially the oils, contain oleic acid. So let's break down oleic acid, what it does, and how detrimental it is to the scalp. And by the end of this video, you will be pointing the finger at nobody but yourself, because it's your fault for the scalp inflammation that you're having. And if you stop it, if you just stop it and then watch this video, you can end that scalp inflammation like the women here on the screen did. So let's talk about it.
I am back. What it do, baby?
When it comes to scalp care, natural oils like coconut, castor oil, avocado, all of these oils are often praised. But what if the very thing you're using to nourish your scalp is actually feeding microbes, triggering inflammation and slowly damaging your hair follicles? Let's break all of this down so you can stop unintentionally sabotaging your scalp and protect your crown the smart way. Because I know that oils and butters and greases seem so relaxing, but it's one of the worst things you can do. So let's hop into the scalp's ecosystem, because your scalp isn't just skin, and it's alive, right, with fungi, bacteria, and mites that play a major role in your hair's health. These organisms are normally and usually harmless, even helpful, but when the environment shifts, like with too much oil and bacteria, things go absolutely insane. And this is where things are confusing, because we have all of these different crazes that constantly sweep over social media, and once it goes viral for a minute, like avocado, remember, nobody talks about it anymore, but all anybody talked about was avocado oil on the scalp. And once the new oil came out, everybody forgot about avocados and they moved on to the next thing. But you guys don't understand that the damage is already done. So this very first scalp disorder, you guys have heard of this. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar, and I've went over these all in the video linked in the description box below, so go there because I'm going to go over this really fast. But this form of yeast thrives off of sebum and oils that are really high in triglycerides, right? It's so crazy. And this breaks down oils into oleic acid. And the oleic acid, that is the byproduct, aka the boo-boo of the oil, of the microfloral that's on your scalp, that's eating your sebum and all of the oils that you're putting on there. Is a byproduct, the thing that it lets out of its body, is oleic acid. And the oleic acid sits on the human scalp, and it causes so many different forms of inflammation. But if all you're pressed about is your scalp looking oily and greasy and moisturized, you don't really think about that, right? I want you to take a screenshot of the things that I'm popping up on the screen, write them down, and then look at your practices, look at the products and the tools that you're using on a regular basis, and type in how certain oils, just look at the oils and the different products that you're using on the scalp, and just type in, how does this feed this type of yeast on my scalp? It's really not up for debate. But if you want to debate it, you can argue with your mom. Number two, this second form of a bacteria that lives on the scalp, because this first one we just went over was the yeast, right? So this next form is one that is also very common. It lives in low oxygen environments like clogged hair follicles, and it feeds on sebum, and it contributes to the scalp's acne and folliculitis. So if you have any form of scalp acne, folliculitis, things of that nature, like most people, most women, whenever they go and they get their hair braided, don't get offended by this, but most braiders don't really know how to or I don't want to say they don't know how. A lot of braiders that y'all are going to now really don't know how to properly sanitize their combs and brushes. They're not sanitizing all of their combs and brushes after each client, right? And when you're doing the partings and using all of this oil and grease and butter going in between everybody's scalp, you're passing this bacteria along, right? And it multiplies. And so this is something that's really, really important, because if you do this, if you get your hair braided, and let's say, because this bacteria lives on the human scalp anyway, but if you don't properly cleanse your tools, and if your different styles aren't put in properly, you actually cause this form of bacteria to overpopulate on the scalp, right? But if you also double back with that and you add a whole bunch of oil and grease and butter to the scalp, you block the follicle even more, creating an even better environment for this form of bacteria. And I need you to understand, as I'm going over these different forms of yeast and bacteria that live on the scalp, it's not just one that you deal with. You have all of these on your scalp, all of them at one time. So this is why you adding oils and butters and greases, it does way more harm than good. This very next one, right, is one that normally is balanced, but when the barrier of your skin, of your scalp, is compromised, this causes infections, odor, and inflammation. So it's something that is really, really, really important. Again, please check the links in the description box below, because every last form of bacteria that we're gracing over today, I'll have a video on all of these, like 20-30 minute videos on all of these, because it's so complex. It's not as simple as just like, hey girl, this what it look, it's a brown little booty dot. It's a little more complicated than that, right? And so next up, what we have is this form of bacteria here. And this is something that most people should really, really pay attention to, but most of us don't, okay? Again, this is a form of bacteria that is really, really thriving in wet and moist environments, right? This is a form of bacteria that is prevalent wherever, sweat glands are. And because wherever your sweat glands are, normally that's where the majority of the moisture is in your body. So for all the people who love the wash and goes and to leave their hair wet, you are a breeding ground for this type of yeast and bacteria. And then last up, Demodex mites. I've talked about Demodex mites here on my channel so many times. And as we speak, at this very second that you're listening to the sound of my voice, these Demodex mites live within your hair follicle, and this is their life cycle. But if you are shampooing the hair on a regular basis and you're not constantly adding oils and butters to the scalp, then you don't have to worry about these Demodex mites getting so big and overpopulating and you getting all of this inflammation. Again, I need you to understand that these Demodex mites right now, today, I've only named about 4 to 5 out of over 1,000 different forms of yeast and bacteria that live on your scalp right now at this very second. So when I say nothing goes on the scalp but shampoo, I'm not just saying it because I want to be anti all of the people that you're following. These are facts. The Demodex mites are there to eat your sebum. That's it. It is the body's natural cleaner, right? And if you are shampooing the hair on a regular basis and you're not adding excess oils and butters and greases that throw off your sebum production, then the Demodex mites are able to eat and die off and be cleansed right off before you know it. But whenever you guys will keep weaves in for 6 months and you have all of those little yellow, like all of those little flakes, that is not dry scalp. Those are all of the dead parasites, Demodex mites, all of the dried up yeast and bacteria. It is actually like a graveyard for your scalp's microbiome. It's literally one of the worst things you can do. And again, oleic acid is the byproduct of like the yeast and a couple of other different forms of yeast and bacteria that live on the scalp. But did you know that most of the oils and butters and greases that you guys are using in your scalp are full of oleic acid? And so many women, so many black women are constantly like, oh, I need grease, I need oil because I have dry scalp. You only have dry scalp because you constantly put oil and grease on the scalp. And what you think is dry scalp isn't actually dry scalp. What you see as dry scalp is actually your skin's barrier on the scalp being broken down. And I'm going to give you a visual representation of that in a second, but I really need you to understand that, right? So when you see all of the flakes, that's not dry scalp. This is what the stratum corneum looks like. And these are the three different layers of skin. The stratum corneum is that very first top layer of skin, right? But if you are constantly oiling and buttering and greasing the scalp, what you don't understand is your scalp is alive. It is a city of yeast and bacteria that are working in your favor. And the reason again that I say nothing goes on the scalp but shampoo is it's your job to keep the microbiome balanced, because the stratum corneum is the layer of skin that is supposed to protect your hair. I mean, protect your hair, your follicle, and everything that lies beneath. But oleic acid is an acid and it begins to eat away at the stratum corneum. This is why you have to shampoo your hair more often. This is why if you add a whole bunch of oils and butters and greases, your scalp will begin to burn. You know why? Because the different forms of yeast and bacteria that live on your scalp, they're eating all of the oils that you're putting on along with your scalp's natural sebum, and then they're repopulating. So the amount that was there, that was initially meant to be there to just keep everything balanced, that amount is now quadrupled, right? And they're eating away at the stratum corneum. So then at that point, now you feel the intense burning, the intense inflammation, and then it goes even deeper into the follicle. Then you begin to go bald. This infographic that you're looking at right now, it shows that the stratum corneum is cracked, right? But it doesn't show that it's cracked along the follicle. I want you to look at this chart right here on the screen, and I want you to see how many of the oils that you guys are putting in your scalp are full of oleic acid. They're most of the ones that you guys love and that you're championing and trying to talk about all the time. But the reality of it is, most of you have no idea. Even when we're talking about something like castor oil, your olive oil is 55 to 83% oleic acid. Your avocado oil is anywhere between 50 to 70% oleic acid. Your sweet almond oil is anywhere between 60 to 70% oleic acid. Argan oil, 42 to 50%. Macadamia oil, 55 to 65%. And your favorite oil that y'all constantly asking me about is anywhere between 70 to 78% oleic acid. Peach kernel oil, 55 to 70%, and hazelnut oil, 70 to 80%. I don't recommend you putting anything on your scalp, but the majority of you are addicted to oil. So if you can't help it, hemp seed, grapeseed oil, jojoba, and squalene are the ones that don't feed as much bacteria, but they still do. They just have lower levels of oleic acid, but that doesn't mean that they don't have other forms of things that damage the skin's barrier. And this is something that you have to think about so many times. And I know I keep bringing up Mayo Organics. I'm just using it as an example. So many of you have destroyed your skin's barrier, right? The stratum corneum. You've literally destroyed it. But then you turn around and you're using something strong as hell, like those drops that had peppermint oil and all of those essential oils that should never go on the scalp. Even if you have a completely healthy scalp with a completely healthy and intact stratum corneum, like that top layer of your skin is perfect, you should never put essential oils on the scalp. But imagine if you have a scalp that is overran with oleic acid, and then you double back on top of that, and then put on these other layers, you are literally destroying your hair. It makes sense to why most of the women who use Mael Organics, whether it was the drops, all of her other products have a high concentration of these different essential oils that are way too strong for the stratum corneum of the scalp. So y'all constantly using these oils, these greases and butters every single day, a couple of times a day, you're literally destroying the scalp. I try to tell people all the time, I tell my clients that when we are talking about adding oils and greases and butters to the scalp and essential oils, it's literally like taking a cheese grater to your scalp and just constantly going back and forth. You're destroying that top layer of skin. That's why so many women here on my channel, I only put a couple of them up at the beginning of the video, but you go ahead and look for yourself. There are so many women who are like, oh my God, at first it was like a little difficult because my body was getting used to me not adding oils and stuff to it, but oh my God, I have a brand new head. I have a brand new scalp, and now that I'm no longer oiling and greasing my scalp on a regular basis, because I need y'all to know that the Demodex mites are there. When you add oil, you're only feeding them. The only thing that's present on the stratum corneum level is the yeast and bacteria and things of that nature. We've already talked about this. The stratum corneum layer of the scalp, most oils, the majority of oils cannot penetrate that top layer. And if they do, they're damaging it. The only things that can penetrate are things that are formulated properly to kill certain yeast and bacteria, and it's with a very specific treatment regimen. You, like, let's say your friend, both you and your friend both have seborrheic dermatitis, and then y'all both go to the dermatologist. You cannot use her prescription, because her level of bacteria infection can be double yours, or it could be way lesser. So you guys have to pay attention to the facts, because when you have an infected hair follicle, when you're adding a bunch of oil and butters and greases to the scalp, you force your body to speed up and do things that it would not have normally done without you doing these things. And these are the things that I want you to think about, because when I'm talking about adding oil to the scalp, it's not just like, oh, my techniques are better than everybody else's, so listen to me and don't listen to them. No, I want you to do your own research. Every time I do videos like this, people are like, she's making stuff up. Take things she says with a grain of salt. Girl, bye. Do me a favor. Get all your favorite oils and search for yourself how much oleic acid is in coconut oil, how much oleic acid is in olive oil, and all of the things. And every time I tell y'all not to use oil, y'all always say, well, I put it on my ends. That's worse. Because, well, not worse, it's equally as bad, because your ends are the oldest part of your hair. They need your sebum more than anything does. And all you putting oil on your ends is going to do is create a barrier. If you put oil on your ends on a regular basis, there is never a time when your scalp sebum touches your hair. It doesn't. It does not. It's not. That's like it's like putting a shower cap on your ends, and nothing is going to touch them. So the key is to have healthy patterns and healthy routines that make it easier for your body to go through its natural processes. So when we're talking about all of these amazing oils, I'm telling y'all, the only thing that people love to do is tell y'all all of the amazing benefits and the vitamins and nutrients. You're not getting any of those vitamins and nutrients by putting these things on your hair. The things that y'all read about are the things that you get when you ingest these different herbs and botanicals into the body, not when you just put all of these different oils and butters on the skin. There are way more cons than pros, way more. The only pro to putting oil on your hair is a vanity metric of an illusion of your hair being shiny. That's it. But what's really happening is a buffet, right? You are old country buffet, baby. You golden corral for the yeast and bacteria that lives on the scalp. And again, all of the things that I taught you about today, or the things that we went over today, these are not things that you can get rid of. So don't ask, oh, Sam, what shampoo can I use to get rid of that streptococcus? What can I use to get rid of all of that yeast? What can I do to get rid of it for good? Nothing. You can't get rid of it for good. It is a part of your body's natural flora, but it is your job to work in co-creation with it, and you're not really helping your body to move along in the way that you should, because instead of you showing your body how to work and move together, you, my love, are instead putting layer after layer after layer of product on top of your scalp, on top of the hair shaft, and all it is doing is making your scalp a porter potty. I'm telling you, it is a porter potty. Your body is a porter potty, and I need you to understand that. Whenever you put oil and butters and greases on the scalp, the microflora that is on your body, what goes in must come out. So once it eats what you put on the scalp, it poops it out. And the things that y'all think, oh, this is dandruff, these flakes, those are not flakes. That's not dandruff. Though that's the stratum corneum that's breaking up and falling off. That's what that is. That's why it burns so intensely. That's why it's so sensitive to touch, because you're taking a cheese grater and slicing your scalp, slicing the skin on that top layer of scalp when you're constantly putting all of these things in the hair. It's a fact. And I know that it's really, really hard for most of you to receive, because most of you are under like mind control when it comes to oiling and greasing the scalp and things of that nature. But I really want y'all to understand that when I get on here and I make videos like this, it's just to give you the information for you to go and keep researching for yourself, right? Because it costs you nothing to stop using all of the things that you spent all this damn money on. Just stop putting the oil in your head. You don't need it. You don't. So there are other things that you can do. One thing that I always get is like, oh my God, Sam, you always tell us what not to do, but you don't tell us what to do. I definitely tell everybody what to do, but not in the way that you expected. Okay, I share a whole lot of information, but what I do here on my channel, I give you information so you can open the door and start researching for yourself. If you want the put together programs that I've done, where I've done the work and the research and put it together, then baby girl, it ain't gonna be free. Links in the description box below. But when you have an overgrowth of sebum, or when you feel the follicle and the scalp with Demodex mites, with oils and greases and butter, you are not moisturizing your hair. You are not hydrating your scalp. All you are doing is feeding the yeast and bacteria that live on your scalp. You're making your scalp weaker. You're making your hair shaft weaker. You're limiting or cutting off completely your scalp's oxygen flow. And this is what's happening. So if you're a person who's like, no matter what, I never see sebum, you're the reason you don't see sebum. Why would the sebum come out of your scalp? It can't. There's literally nowhere for it to go, right? The little thing that you see poking out on the right hand side is the sebaceous gland. That's what produces the oil. But if you look at the oil that you can see in this infographic, if you can look at that oil, let's imagine that oil is the oil, grease, and butter that you put on the scalp. And all of the different forms of yeast and bacteria that we just named, they're all going to eat it. Poop on the scalp, then the burning, the itching, and the tingling. That's why hundreds of women that watch my videos and that are in my comments, go read it for yourself, are like, oh my God, Sam, you're so right. I just listened to you. I stopped oiling my scalp. I stopped putting oil and grease in my hair, and my hair has never felt better. All right, so make sure you're around for part 4 of this video. I need you to do your homework and your research, because we are going even deeper in the next part of this series.
So thank you so much for watching this video and sticking around to the end. If you stuck around to the end, then I have a treat for you, my friend. So listen to this whole song, let me know what you think about it, and let me know your favorite part in the description box below. And if you've watched to this portion right here, put an emoji in the chat. Let's see. Put a herb, some type of herb, or a teapot or a teacup in the chat if you've made it this far. I love you guys so much. In the chat, oh my god, in the comments if you made it this far. I love you so much, and until our next video.
You got castor, coconut, argan too, rubbing on your scalp like it's shampoo. But little do you know, while you think it's slick, there's a mite in your follicle doing backflips. Oleic acid breaking down your skin. Say goodbye to edges, say goodbye to grin. Parasites feeding, yeast is feasting. That oil buffet got your roots retreating. Don't put that on your scalp, no, unless you want a bald patch, clap. Don't put that on your scalp. If it's sharp, keep it off the nap. No oils, no thick stuff, no slick lie. Your scalp ain't a salad, don't let it fry. Hair weathering, creeping like a ghost. 6 months to 25, then it's toast. You thought you were glowing, but girl, it's grease. You fed a colony of bugs at least. Demodex mites in a slip and slide, yelling woo, woo on that oil ride. Your barrier's gone, now your skin's exposed. Itchy, flaky, yeah, your scalp just knows. That slicker ain't thicker, it's a follicle fight. And your strands clocked out in the middle of the night. Don't put that on your scalp. What I say? Oleic acid got you in the trap. Don't put that on your scalp, no man, unless you like breakage, flakes, and slap. If it ain't scalp safe, don't rub it in. Don't let the yeast and mites win. Healthy roots ain't born from grease. Leave your hair in peace. Capiche?